The wind screamed through the jagged peaks like a warning from the heavens, and far below, at the foot of the cold and unforgiving mountain, a man lay broken in the dust, his blood soaking into the rocky earth as if the mountain itself was drinking his life away. He had fallen from a cliff while hiking alone, his phone shattered, his body barely moving, and his breath coming in weak, painful gasps. At that very moment, when death was only minutes away, a poor girl with torn shoes and a weary heart was walking past, carrying a bundle of firewood on her thin shoulders, unaware that the destiny of her life was about to change forever. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in miracles that come from the most unexpected places, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you love, leave a comment, and subscribe to this channel so more stories like this can touch hearts around the world. The girl's name was Aira, and her life had never known comfort. She lived in a small, broken-down wooden hut near the mountain base with her sick mother and her little brother. Every single day she walked miles up and down the mountain collecting firewood and herbs, selling them in the nearby village just to earn enough for a little food and her mother's medicine. The mountain was her enemy and her only friend, cruel in its weather yet generous in its hidden gifts. That day, as the sun began to sink and the sky turned the color of fading hope, Aira was already exhausted. Her hands were scraped, her legs were trembling, and her heart was heavy with worry about whether she had earned enough to keep her family alive another day. As she walked along a narrow rocky path, she heard a faint, broken sound that didn't belong to the wind or the birds. It was a weak groan, barely louder than a whisper. Fear ran through her body, but something stronger than fear pushed her forward. She followed the sound until she found him lying near a cluster of stones, his expensive jacket torn, his face pale, and blood streaked across his forehead. He looked nothing like the poor villagers she knew. Even in his injured state, there was something about him that spoke of wealth and a life far removed from her own. But in that moment, none of that mattered to Aira. He was simply a human being dying in front of her eyes. Without thinking about the danger or the effort, she dropped her firewood and rushed to his side. She had no medical training, but she had seen enough injuries in her hard life to know that he wouldn't survive if she left him there. She tore a piece from her old scarf and gently pressed it against his bleeding head. His breathing was shallow, and his eyes fluttered open for a brief second, filled with confusion and pain. He tried to speak, but only a weak sound came out. Aira whispered words of comfort, even though she didn't know if he could hear her. In that lonely, cold place, she became his only lifeline. Getting him to safety was almost impossible for someone as small and tired as her. Yet, driven by a heart that refused to abandon another soul, Aira slowly and painfully dragged him onto a makeshift stretcher she created from fallen branches and her own rope. Every step down the rocky slope felt like a battle against the mountain itself. Her muscles burned, her breath came in gasps, and tears streamed down her face from both pain and fear. Still, she kept going, whispering prayers and pushing forward, knowing that if she stopped, he would die. By the time she reached her small hut, the sky was already dark. She had never brought a stranger into her home before, especially not someone who looked so important. But there was no choice. She laid him on her only bed, the same bed her mother and brother shared, and used what little clean cloth she had to stop his bleeding. Her mother, weak and pale, watched with worried eyes as Aira worked through the night, wiping blood, cooling his fevered skin, and doing everything she could to keep him alive. That night, Aira didn't sleep. She sat by his side, holding his hand, afraid that if she let go, he would slip away. Days passed, and slowly, the man began to recover. When he finally opened his eyes fully, He saw the cracked ceiling of a poor hut and a young girl sleeping on a wooden chair beside him, her head resting on her arms. Confusion filled his mind. He was supposed to be in a luxury mountain resort, far away from any place like this. Memories of his fall came back in painful flashes. He realized that if not for this poor girl, he would have died alone on the mountain. Aira woke up to see him staring at her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, with a weak but grateful smile, he tried to thank her. His voice was still hoarse, but the sincerity in his eyes was clear. Aira felt awkward and shy. She had never spoken to someone like him before. She simply nodded and told him to rest. To her, saving him wasn't something heroic. It was just what a human being should do. As the days went on, he learned more about her life. He saw how she struggled to earn money, how her mother's illness drained every coin she had, and how her little brother often went to bed hungry. The man's heart ached as he watched her give up her own meals so her family could eat. He wanted to help, but he had nothing with him. No phone, no wallet, no way to tell her who he really was. For now, he was just another injured stranger in her care. What Aira didn't know was that the man she had saved was one of the richest businessmen in the country. His name was Adrian Hale, a billionaire who owned companies, skyscrapers, and a life of luxury that Aira could not even imagine. He had come to the mountains to escape the pressure of his world, never expecting that a single accident would bring him into the life of someone who had nothing yet gave everything. When Adrian was finally strong enough to walk, he insisted on leaving to find help and return what Aira had given him. With a heavy heart, she watched him go, not knowing if she would ever see him again. Part of her felt strangely empty, as if a small light had left her poor little world. She didn't save him expecting anything in return, but she had grown attached to the quiet, grateful man who had shared her small space and listened to her stories. Weeks passed, and life went back to its harsh routine. Aira continued climbing the mountain, selling herbs, and worrying about her family's survival. Then, one day, the sound of expensive cars filled the dusty road near her hut. Villagers gathered, whispering in disbelief as a group of well-dressed people stepped out. At the center of them stood Adrian, now healthy, confident, and dressed in a way that revealed his true identity. Aira stood frozen, unable to believe that the poor, injured man she had saved was now standing before her as someone so powerful. Adrian's eyes found her immediately, and when he walked toward her, his face was filled with emotion. He told everyone how this poor girl had saved his life when no one else was there. He spoke about her courage, her kindness, and her sacrifice. The villagers listened in shock, and Aira felt tears fill her eyes, not because of pride, but because she realized that her simple act of kindness had mattered more than she ever knew. Adrian didn't just come back to thank her. He came back to change her life. He arranged for her mother to receive the best medical care, something Aira could never have afforded. He made sure her brother would go to a good school, and for Aira, he offered opportunities she had never dreamed of: education, a safe home, and a future that didn't involve endless suffering. Yet, what touched Aira the most wasn't the money or the gifts. It was the way Adrian looked at her, with deep respect and gratitude. He never treated her like someone beneath him. To him, she was the person who had given him a second chance at life. As time went on, Aira slowly adjusted to her new reality. The mountain that had once been her only hope became a place she visited with different eyes. She was no longer just a poor girl struggling to survive. She was someone who had changed a billionaire's life simply by choosing kindness over fear. And even as her life transformed, Ira never forgot where she came from. She used the opportunities given to her to help others like her, poor families, sick children, and anyone who needed a helping hand. In doing so, she honored the moment that had started it all. The moment she chose to stop and help a dying stranger at the foot of a mountain. If this story of kindness, sacrifice, and unexpected miracles touched your heart even a little, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to this channel so more emotional stories like this can reach the world. Before this story ends, I have a special request for you. Please go down and comment one simple word of kindness. Let's fill the comment section with a reminder that even the smallest act of compassion can change a life forever. In the end, Ira would often look back at that cold, windy day on the mountain and realize that what felt like just another hard moment in her painful life was actually the beginning of something beautiful. She didn't save Adrian because he was rich. She saved him because he was human, and in doing so, she didn't just rescue a stranger, she unknowingly opened the door to a future where her family would no longer suffer, where hope would replace fear, and where her own heart would finally know peace. Sometimes, the greatest miracles don't come from wealth or power. They come from a poor girl with a brave heart, standing at the foot of a mountain, choosing love over everything else.